every current UFC champion ranked by their finishing ability. Of course, we got guys like Tom Aspinall, Alex Pereira, Islam Makhachev, and Ilia Topuria at the top of the list. We got Merab Dvalishvili at dead last. Right next to him is, remember the decision, Bilal Muhammad. So we're going to be kind of explaining these rankings here and why we have Ilia below Islam Makhachev, why Dricus is that low, why John Jones is above Alexandre Pantoja, why Bilal is above Merab, and more. And that's all that's going to be covered in today's video, is why these rankings are the way that they are, ranked from the number one finisher to the number one decisionator, Merab Dvalishvili. The first one is easy, Tom Aspinall. 31 years old, has not gone to a single decision in the UFC, and outside of the UFC, has not gone to a single decision either. 8-1 in the UFC, 3 round 1 knockouts in a row here. Round 1 submission, round 1 knockout, submission, knockout, and knockout. These are all in 1 round or 2 rounds. The dude hasn't seen a third round. Even his loss was in 15 seconds. So win or lose, it's the easiest thing ever for me to put Tom Aspinall number 1 there in the UFC heavyweight division. Then we got Alex Poatan Pereira, and the reason he's below Tom Aspinall, it's very obvious. He's a finisher for sure. Yuri, Jamal, Yuri again, and Khalil Roundtree. But he's got this Jan Blachowicz decision, and he's got this Bruno Silva decision. And, you know, that weighed him down a little bit. Of course, Aspinall has to be above Alex Pereira just for those simple things there. Just for those simple things. And the reason Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria are going to be below Alex Pereira here, first off, Ilia Topuria went to a decision very, very recently against Josh Emmett, was able to knock out Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, but recently, Alex Pereira's on 4 finishes in a row and decision with a former champion. Ilia decision with a former interim title challenger, so that's a little bit less for me, so I had to put Alex Pereira above Ilia Topuria. Now, Islam Makhachev, the reason I had Alex Pereira above Islam is, yes, Islam is on a 3-fight finish streak here, but a decision with Volkanovski. He did go back and finish Volkanovski right after, and finish, but he had the more recent decision with Volkanovski. And of course, Alex Pereira's his decision was with Jan Blachowicz. Similar to Islam, he had a decision with Volkanovski, which is very interesting. But Alex more recently has more finishes, and it's been a while longer since his decision with Jan Blachowicz. So I had to have Alex Pereira a little bit ahead. Then comes, this is the hardest debate I had to make. Number 3 and number 4 could be interchangeable. I had Islam Makhachev above Ilia Topuria. And the reason being, again, Ilia, just 2 fights ago, decisioned Josh Emmett. Other than that, a lot of finishes for sure, but also a decision with Youssef Zalal. Also a decision with Youssef Zalal. He is currently inside of the UFC 8-0 and has a 75% finish rate. Islam Makhachev, in his last 8 fights, this is kind of the reason I had Islam above him. In his last 8 fights, finish, decision, but he went on to finish that same guy the fight directly after that. That's 4 fights, 3 finishes, so same 75%, but finish. I mean, the guy in the last, since 2021, Ilia Topuria, since 2020, in the same kind of realm of time period, in the last 8 fights, in the last 9 fights, Islam only had 1 decision, and he went on to finish the guy right after that, whereas Ilia went to 2 decisions with Youssef Zalal, and then Josh Emmett. Islam decision Volkanovski, and then finished him. Ilia decision Josh Emmett and Youssef Zalal. So I thought it was very clear. I mean, it was kind of hard for me to really debate, because Ilia, I mean, nowadays is obviously the guy that you look at an Ilia fight, you know this dude's about to get a finish, where Islam, a lot of people were predicting a decision with Arman Tsarukyan, but based on these last fights, I had to go Islam Makhachev. Of course, Ilia came right after that at number 4, and of course, Ilia is above Dricus du Plessis. Because yes, Dricus is a finisher in his own right, 23-2, only 3 decisions on his record, but I mean, 2 decisions really recently. Sean Strickland twice. Took him 4 rounds to go out there and finish Israel Adesanya. And then, again, in his last, 6 fights, 7 fights, decision Brad Tavares. So, of course, he's not going to be ahead of Ilya or Islam, who's finishing more than 80% of the time, 75% of the time. Dricus is decisioning twice in his last 3 fights, so of course he had to come behind Ilya and Islam and Pereira and things like that. Then we got Jon Jones. The reason Jon Jones is below Dricus, okay? Jon Jones finished Gane and Stipe. The reason why, I mean, in the last 5 years, he's undefeated with all finishes. That sounds amazing, right? They were stylistic nightmares for his opponents. Stipe was old as heck, and Ciryl Gane is a striker, and that's the easiest thing for Jon Jones to fight against, is a guy that doesn't know how to defend a takedown. These are 2 finishes against guys that everybody, I mean, it was a 50-50 odds just because they didn't know what Jones was going to look like coming up to heavyweight and things like that, but in hindsight, everybody thinks that Jones is going to go out there and beat Gane and Stipe. Nobody thought Stipe was going to go out there and upset Jon Jones in that fight. And if we're looking at the entire career of Jon Jones, he's really a decision guy. I mean, he's got these 2 finishes, Ciryl Gane and Stipe, but big picture, decision. A TKO, sure. A decision. Overall, Jon Jones really is a decision machine in the UFC. So he's got to be below Dricus just because of how many decisions he's had. Dricus overall really does only have those 3 decisions against super high-level guys, a former top 10 middleweight and a former champion. Other than that, all finishes. So Jones has to come below that just for his history of decisioning in the UFC. Pantoja comes next, and he's definitely above Belal and Merab Dvalishvili for the simple fact that in his last 5-6 fights, he's got 3 finishes. In his last 6 fights, he's a 50% finisher, all by rear naked choke. Kaya Sakura, Alex Perez, and Brandon Royval. Of course, he's got his share of decisions as well in his career, but more than 66% of his fights, about 66% of his fights, are actually finishes. He's got a lot of decisions, but look at them. Erceg, Royval, Moreno, Manel Kape. I mean, Brandon Moreno again. I mean, you definitely have to put Pantoja above Belal because more than 50% of his fights are finishes. Even recently, more than 50% are finishes. Whereas Belal and Merab, 5 knockouts, 1 submission, 18 decisions. Merab, freaking 3 knockouts, 1 submission, and 15 decisions. It's horrible. So, of course, Pantoja's got to be ahead of those 2. Then comes the debate between the decisionation machines. Is Belal going to be ahead? Is Merab going to be ahead? And I simply figured this out by saying, well, 3 fights ago, Belal finished Sean Brady. That was it. That's all it took. Other than that, all decisions for Belal Muhammad. But he went out there and TKO'd undefeated Sean Brady, who came out after that to easily dismaul Kelvin Gastelum and beat Gilbert Burns dominantly, beat Chiesa dominantly, Jake Matthews dominantly. And, Belal went out there and finished that guy, whereas Merab, when is the last time this guy has gotten a finish? Against the chinniest chin of the UFC bantamweight division, Marlon Moraes. Merab finished Marlon after Marlon had gotten knocked out twice by Rob Font and Corey Sandhagen, and went on to get knocked out again and again and again and again. He is on like a 7-fight knockout losing streak. So that is the guy Merab is finishing. Other than that, all decisions. Whereas, Belal Muhammad is finishing Sean Brady. So I had to have Belal. Belal has the most recent finish, and he finished a better guy. Merab finished a guy that was on a crazy losing streak, went on to get TKO'd over and over and over again, has a bad chin. It's clear. Belal is definitely the better finisher than Merab Dvalishvili. But this is what I got. Number 1, Aspinall. Then Pereira. Islam above Ilya. It's very, very close, though. Then Dricus. Then Jones. Pantoja. Belal. And Merab Dvalishvili. Every current UFC champion ranked based on their finishing ability. That's what I got to say. Make sure to like and subscribe. Comment how you guys would rank it. It's only 9 fighters, so comment down below. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And comment who you guys have ranked as the number 1 finisher. It's got to be Aspinall. If anybody puts anybody other than Aspinall at number 1, you're crazy. And if anybody puts anybody other than Merab at number 9, you're crazy. But comment down below your most likely finishers in the UFC. Your champions. You're most likely to go out there that are going to go out there and finish their fight, submit their opponent, knock out their opponent. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Check out that pinned comment to become a channel member. And we'll see you in the next one.